Hello, and welcome to A Cuppa with Karen. Today, I've just got a collection of clips regarding the politics around duck hunting in the state of Victoria. So, this one's from 7 months ago. It's about duck hunting, so there's going to be some dead birds.
I want to take you to a story that highlights just how dogmatic the Daniel Andrews government in Victoria is about stripping away the rights of law-abiding citizens to do things such as go and hunt. Now, this week, an Andrews government-led parliamentary inquiry, which was dominated by Greens and animal justice politicians, recommended that duck shooting in Victoria be banned. Now, duck shooting has been banned, I think, in places like Queensland and New South Wales and even WA for quite some time. However, the inquiry did recommend, and this is what intrigued me about this, that Aboriginal people, Indigenous people, could continue hunting as part of protecting their cultural heritage. It went further than that. The report said that duck hunters should undertake cultural heritage study. Now, I didn't know there were guns in this country before the British came along. Joining me to discuss this is Libertarian member of the Victorian Legislative Council, David Limbrick. David, great to catch up with you. Tell us about this inquiry. I mean, duck hunting has been very controversial in Victoria for a long time. I can go back 20 years to when there were protesters protesting about duck hunting, but it looks like it's about to come to an end. What's your view on that?
Well, this inquiry was set up, by the government with the support of Animal Justice Party in order to try and come up with an investigation into duck hunting. And of course, they've come out with this recommendation to ban it. But I think that they've come up with a lot of opposition that they didn't expect. As you mentioned, there's a lot of unions that are opposed to prohibiting recreational activities for their members, but also lots of Indigenous groups. They enjoy hunting, and it's quite. I think that the government still, even though this inquiry recommended for duck hunting to be banned, I think that the government's still going to have a lot of trouble if they try and implement this recommendation.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because Daniel Andrews, sort of unlike him, when this came up a couple of months ago, was sitting on the fence. And the reason he did it, I think, David, is the powerful CFMEU that tips huge amounts of money into the Labor Party during election campaigns in Victoria said, hang on a minute, half of our members love going duck hunting. You can't do that.
Yeah, and it's not just the CFMEU, also the ETU, AMWU, a lot of these unions. But one of the really interesting things that I noticed from the report when I went through it today, I haven't had a chance to read the report in its entirety, is that one of the government members of the committee wrote a minority report. This was Miss Watt, and she is one of the few actual Aboriginal members of Parliament. And in her recommendation, she didn't, in her minority report, she didn't recommend banning duck hunting. She simply stated that there needs to be more Indigenous involvement and tightening up of compliance. So I think that, I don't know what sort of pressures she's under within the Labor Party, but it was certainly very significant that, a Labor Party MP who went along with the government but still felt the need to write a minority report on this issue around hunting. I think it signals that the government is going to have a lot of trouble if they try and outlaw hunting in Victoria.
Over the last few weeks.
Animal rights groups in Victoria say the state government's decision to allow duck hunting to continue is a disgrace. Shooters have turned out for the first day of the season, despite an inquiry recommending the sport be banned.
Gunfire breaks a quiet autumn morning, marking the start of the 2024 duck hunting season.
I think it's a great sport. I think it teaches you about the environment. It teaches you to to protect the environment.
Animal rights activists have spent decades calling for the controversial pastime to be banned.
There's a very high wounding rate of between 6 and 40% are the estimates. So even with supposed good shots, there's a very high rate of birds that are injured, wounded and suffering.
Last year, a parliamentary inquiry into the sport recommended this year's season be called off. The state government ignored the advice.
I'm absolutely furious today. I'm still in shock that the duck shooting season went ahead and that the government ignored their own parliamentary inquiry, that they not only formed themselves but chaired themselves, that told them to ban recreational duck shooting in Victoria.
Instead, the government will introduce tougher restrictions and harsher penalties for shooters who break the rules. From next year, shooters will be required to complete mandatory training. They've banned the use of lead shot for quails and introduced a wounding reduction plan.
You can have all the regulations in the world, but if no one enforces them, they're useless.
The terrain of swamps and wetlands like these can make it difficult for shooters to retrieve wounded birds. It's one of the biggest concerns animal rights groups have heading into another duck hunting season.
Nothing can be done to stop wounding. It's condemning animals to ongoing suffering for weeks on end.
Rowan Neve has been duck hunting for almost 50 years. He says shooters are unfairly stereotyped.
I think, everyone thinks we're Rambos and go out there but we kill, we practice, we clay target shoot, we practice to get good at killing and make sure it's a good, clean kill, and we take the meat home and we harvest it, so nothing goes to waste. Boomer, my dog before, he's got a 100% hit rate of collecting birds.
They're doing this for fun. Don't make any mistake that this is about anything other than a bunch of grown men running around in camo and having fun by killing wildlife.
The season will run for 8 weeks, ending on June 5. Holly Edward-Smith for Sky News in Reedy Lake.
The Premier is under fire on day one of the duck hunting season as animal welfare groups call for an investigation. They're accusing the Allen government of doing a dodgy deal with unions to ignore recommendations to ban the sport.
Ducks and shooters remain in the sights of their enemies. Day one of the new season introduced unprecedented restrictions. 32 wetlands closed and daily bag limits cut from 9 to 6, but shooters still enjoy the backing of the Premier.
Duck and quail hunting is a legitimate recreational activity and the government's position has remained unchanged on this.
Anti-duck hunting campaigners want investigations launched into the integrity of the Allen government's decision. They believe the season is proceeding largely due to threats by unions to strike if duck hunting was banned.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was because of the pressure put on by the Electrical Trades Union and the CFMEU.
A parliamentary inquiry recommended the end of duck hunting in Victoria. The government ignored it.
I think this decision is incredibly suspicious. There's questions that need to be answered and I will continue to ask them.
The season will run for 2 months.
I've got lots of friends who've been out and very excited about the first day of duck hunting today, and I'm sure they will enjoy their duck for dinner this evening.
Cameron Bowe, 7 News.
Victorian MP Georgie Purcell and activist Laurie Levy have been banned from wetlands for the remainder of the duck hunting season. The pair was forcibly removed this morning, accused of illegally entering waters to rescue injured birds.
With more care for wildlife than the law.
Have you seen any GMA officers in your vicinity?
Animal Justice MP Georgie Purcell and longtime campaigner Laurie Levy knew they were being watched as they rescued injured ducks near Kerrang until they were booted by authorities.
What is your reason for being on a wetland without a game licence or an authority?
We're out there looking to stop shooters.
Police and Game Authority officers swarmed the Johnson Swamp, accusing the pair of trespassing on the active hunting site.
For today, we will issue those banning notices.
I have absolutely no regrets breaking the law today.
The veteran animal rights advocate refusing to back down.
We've been arrested numerous times. We're quite happy to pay the price. We're quite happy to go to the courts.
Volunteers have attended wetlands across the state, vowing to protect the birds on the first weekend of the hunting season, critical of the state government for ignoring a parliamentary inquiry's recommendation to follow other states and ban the sport.
If you're not permitted to be there, don't go there. And frankly, MPs aren't above the law either.
The Allen Labor government might be gutless, but I'm sure as hell not. And I'll continue to be out there on the wetlands as long as duck shooting continues.
Jacqueline Stanley, 7 News.
And that was that. See you later. Bye.